Hi, and welcome to this episode of I've Got This Kid. I'm your host, Dr. Cherina Williams, licensed speech and language pathologist, homeschooling mom of 2, wife of 1, here to share everything speech, language, play, development, homeschooling, parent education, and all that other stuff that falls in between. It is an honor being back here with you guys another day. We are moving on strong as I come back and reacclimate to the scene, podcasting scene, and it has been pretty fun, I have to admit. Please check out past episodes and share with a friend. Today we're going to dive right into things. I'm talking, is parent stress real? My monologue. I am a parent of 2. It is stressful from time to time. Things can get wild. I am usually the one that's starting the ruckus, and they are usually the ones ending ruckus. I'm not ashamed that I do pleasantly torture my children, but then they also reciprocate. But sometimes when we're not playing around, things can get real. And we're going to dive into what that looks like today, looking at parent stress, and is there a relationship with little sugars who have developmental delays. And that just means that little sugar is not meeting milestones the way that we would expect them to in comparison to same age peers. Is there some variation? Absolutely, there is some variation of what we would expect, but generally there are certain things, certain criteria that we would expect. And if little sugar is not meeting those criteria, we do consider that a delay. I also like to say just gaps in development in different areas. Sometimes it's one area, sometimes it's multiple areas. But without further ado, what is parent stress? Well, according to Dieter and Deckard, 1998, this will be in the notes because y'all know I'm not a plagiarist. Parent stress is experienced from demands associated with the role of parenting that inhibit negative feelings toward the child and self. So you see, it's kind of twofold. The outcome of parent stress can give you negative feelings towards your child, or maybe feeling like you're failing your child, which would then be those negative feelings towards yourself. Wikipedia Journal of Medicine says that parent stress, also known as parent burnout, relates to stressors that are a function of being in and executing the parenting role. That just is a nice way to say sometimes stuff is hard, and based on that situation, you can burn out, and parenting is just not that fun. It goes beyond the everyday. It's like the day in and day out nuances of parenting. But sometimes, if there are ongoing interactions, ongoing experiences, ongoing demands that you don't necessarily get to recover from, then that would be a stressor as a parent. And so the real question comes into play: can parent stress impact your behavior as a parent? You might think that you are like the best actress ever or actor ever. You might think you're like Denzel Washington caliber actor, actress, Brad Pitt. You're like out there killing. Think you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. Or maybe you think you're like Tom Cruise and you're like Mission Impossible and you're like stealthy and you're like, yeah, I'm doing a good job. And then, yeah, but nope, 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 you probably, nope. Kids are smart. You probably are doing a kind of good job covering up how you're really feeling, but just like holes in a water bottle where the water start coming out, that's us as humans when we are stressed out, because whatever we're feeling on the inside is going to come out somehow, some way on the outside. Some of the things that we see that research has shown us is that sometimes parents will stop talking as much. There's less interaction because you don't want there to be a blow up. Uh, but with less interaction means that there's less bonding, and then there's less time to model language, and less time to model social skills, and less time to increase vocabulary or play skills or other things like that. So, yep. Reduce responsiveness from parents. Um, what the research says is the lower IQ, the less responsive. What do I mean by that? Research told us that for parents who were asked this question, what's your child's IQ? Based on their IQ, if little sugar's IQ is lower, then the parent is less responsive. And just thinking about that, it might also be if sugar's not talking a lot, then you might not want to talk as much, right? It might honestly be that too. Like if you feel like you're talking and doing all the talking and they're not talking to you, then that can be a little bit uncomfortable depending on the person. Like if you're not comfortable with silent rooms, then talking and nobody's responding can be a bit discouraging, but it might also make you talk a little bit less without you even thinking about it, right? Warden Lee found that there is a relationship between parent stress and child cognitive development, and that parent responsiveness, it is impacted. And so what stinks about this is if little sugar is quiet and you're quiet, then you're not having a chance to really model language for little sugar. And they're the ones who need it most. But what stinks about that is I understand, I get it. You don't want to talk and nobody's talking back to you. And that can reduce your satisfaction as being a parent. Like, I'm talking, they're not responding, but I see the other kids on the playground responding to their mom, and I see the other kids reacting to their moms and their dads, and they're doing all this stuff. But here we are, we're just kind of looking at each other, and that makes me feel rejected because why aren't they engaging with me? Am I a bad parent? Am I doing something wrong? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with everybody? Right? And that's when our acting skills really start falling apart, is when these questions come and we don't have any real answers or somebody to buffer off of to really find out, like, is what I'm feeling normal? And how do I even deal with that? And so it also can give greater frustration on our part as the parent, right? So with the greater frustration world changer, you might start demonstrating on unwanted behaviors, right? And those unwanted behaviors may look like getting a little bit too fussy with the child, or being a little bit more irritable to little sugar, or labeling little sugar as bad, or saying things like they can't learn, or they don't talk, or they don't this and they don't that. And I'm not beating anybody up at all. This is what the research says. This taboo topic, this is not an easy topic to delve in, so just bear with me, all right? Because we'll get to the fun part later, right? But the lack of responsiveness can be difficult. Why aren't you listening? Why aren't you talking to me? I know you heard my words. Use your words. Or if you've had a long day, the chances are, like, you're human too, right? And you have feelings too. And so it can be frustrating if you feel like you're not being heard, or they're not talking, or they talk when they want to, or they, whatever is happening, that's just creating like that experience that you don't necessarily love, that's impacting the engagement and the bonding. And so you want to be mindful that, yeah, this is real. And so when we think about, is there a relationship specifically with language delays? Remember, I just talked about developmental delays, but now we're getting into the real nitty gritty to when we're thinking about language delays and parent stress. Is there a correlation between language delays and parent stress? Yes, there is a correlation. Honig and Park, they conducted a study in 1997, and they reported there's a higher correlation of parental distress in language delayed sugars, 45 to 57%, compared to parents with children with normal language, and it reduces down to 24% to 28%. But did you notice something? Typically and atypically, everybody's like, right. And so that's why I gave you the caveat, like, hey, look, I got my moments too. Don't feel like you're an island. I have my moments too, where I'm like, I'm gonna hide in a corner, don't see me. But that's not all the time, right? And so we don't want it to be all the time, but acknowledging what we're feeling is, that's healthy. That's healthy. And there is a reason though that our parents, you world changers, might have or might be inclined to be a little bit more stressed out than the world changers who don't have children with language delays that are typically developing. And there's some emotional and practical challenges that come along with that. The emotional ones are real. Like, you can't deny that you had expectations for your little sugar. And if all of a sudden you're wondering all the time, are they going to live a normal life? That's not easy. Like, that's hard. You might have a mixed expectation bag. Like, one of you world changers feels one way, but your parenting partner feels another way. And then that's just like, rah, right? But then there's also the perception of your sugar, right? If you are comparing them to others, well, my sister's child does this, and my brother's child does that, and the child on the playground, and the kids in the class, and then when you compare, what stinks about that for little sugar is that it's hard to see if sugar is making progress if you're looking at what everybody else's little sugar is doing. And so it really takes a lot of effort to really see your sugar for who they are and really see the progress that they're making, and even seeing if they're actually learning and doing a little bit better week by week. And so little sugar's behavior that's associated with the language delays can be problematic as well. Self-control, right? Sensory processing, their emotional regulation, that can really have an emotional impact on you if you're worried about why they're not eating. If you're worried about are they going to flip on and off your light switches all day long? If you're worried about if they're going to elope and be running off or doing unsafe things, if you're walking on eggshells, right, in your home because you don't want them to blow up. And so you're overthinking and overdoing everything to avoid this unwanted reaction from them, right? That can be stressful. And it can also lead to loneliness and isolation, because little sugar, like, loneliness and isolation is a big stressor because my sugar doesn't fit in. So now I don't want to go out with my friends who have kids. And now I don't want to go to the playground because I don't know what little sugar is going to do. I don't know if they're going to talk or not, or somebody's going to come up to them and talk to them and they may not say anything back, and that's embarrassing, or they're whining and crying and they look like they're, off the hook, and they're laying out in the middle of the floor at Target, and you're like, oh my God, please get off the floor, or whatever it is that gives you that feeling of, we just need to go hide in this bubble and Amazon life, like, and life is going to be Amazon. And that's not the way you want to do things, because it takes away their chances of doing stuff. But I do understand that the unknown is oftentimes stressful, and we are able to control ourselves, but it's hard when we cannot control our little sugars. And that can lead to shame. Like, I'm ashamed of my sugar. I feel judged when they're not talking. I feel judged when they're doing these behaviors in public. And people are looking at me like, why don't you get your child? Or, oh my gosh, you're a bad parent. And you're like, I'm not a bad parent. Like, right? And so that can be stressful. But the practical things, this is when we're talking about the day to day, when we look past little sugar and we're thinking about what are some things that take place that can be stressful that we don't always talk about. And that can be the time and cost associated with the diagnosis, especially if you need multiple specialists. I talked about that a few episodes ago. When you're trying to find the right SLP, paying for that is no joke. Like, that's a whole nother bill. And so that can be stressful. Fighting for services can be stressful. Little sugar has this diagnosis, and they're either saying no, or they won't give them the services they need, or little sugar's being waitlisted for a year. whatever the case may be, like that can be stressful because then there's like the wonder in the back of the mind, like, oh my God, are they ever going to be seen? Are these gaps going to get wider? Like, what do I do? And so that can be a little bit scary. Then caregiving can honestly be tiring. I'm tired. Y'all, hey, look, we're in these trenches together. It is no joke. And now the kids, they get older and they got activities and you're driving and you can't even think straight because there's always something to do. But if you're doing that, going to appointments and you're getting three different people giving you three different things to do on top of your other kids that you have in your work schedule and your household and your husband and your wife and your life and there's again, right? Can I breathe? Can I get respite? Can I trust somebody to give me some respite? Like, who do you trust in your community around you? Like, I thank God for my mom because she's like the third parent because she's always there. She knows my kids and she takes good care of them. She's my trusted person, right? But what if you don't have that? What if you don't have a trusted person? It can be hard. And the final challenge is the home life, not the diagnosis. I'm talking about the home life. Like, is this diagnosis taking over to the point to where your other sugar's needs are not being met? It happens, not intentionally, but it happens because you're like, hey, they don't need all the help, but this one needs all my help right now. And so that means that I might not be able to play cards with you. That might mean I might not be able to help you with homework or do this or do that, or you can't do this activity because I'm paying for this. And I'm so sorry. And oh my gosh, why am I slighting this child? That in and of itself is stressful. If your parenting partner is not feeling like, hey, we don't bond anymore, we don't connect anymore because you're always doing this or you're always at that appointment or you're always this or maybe we're both doing it, we're both in the trenches and we're just both tired and we're not even connecting anymore, I don't even know who you are anymore. That can be hard. You were a person before you had sugar in them, right? Your personal interests, if those are being waitlisted all the time, maybe you are an amazing artist or you love to dance or go to the gym or whatever it was you love to do, hiking, whatever activity it was that really fed you before your sugars. If you're not able to do that, that can be hard because a lot of times those are the outlets that we need to come back and face day to day. And so I just want to leave you with some practical tips and tools that'll help you along the way. Acknowledge where you are. If you're the professional listening to this, acknowledge that your world changers are probably having some challenges, said or unsaid. Remember, like the acting skills, the smiles that they may be wearing when they're coming into your office, but they may not be feeling that way. Two, seeing your sugar beyond that diagnosis. Like your little sugar has a purpose. They have a life outside of this diagnosis. That's only one aspect of their life. It might impact a lot of things in their life, but it's still only one aspect of their life. And so if you really don't know and you're not sure, just start observing like what piques their interest, what gets them going, what ticks them. Are they more artsy? Are they more math? Do they like math a little bit more? Do they like reading? What do they like to do? Getting on an iPhone is not, that's not, that's not a thing that they like to do. Like, what is their gifts and talents? That's what I'm getting at there. Like, find out what their gifts and talents are. They've got some. I guarantee they've got something. Even if it's making you guys laugh, that's a gift, right? We need more happy people in this world. The third thing, this is so important. Please show yourself grace. Show yourself grace. Parenting is not easy. We don't have all the answers. There are some books out there that give you some tips, but it is impossible to cover every last thing that you need to know as a parent. Even going to your mom and your dad and asking them questions about how you were and how your siblings were, like that's going to give you a little bit of information, but it's not going to give you a whole picture of who your little sugar is. And so just show yourself grace as you go through this process because we don't always get everything right, but the things that we do get right, like celebrate that and celebrate that you're trying your best. Even listening to this, like you're trying your best, you're doing something, right? Be confident to explain. If you are not confident to explain what's going on with your sugar, if you need tools to understand your sugar, learning milestone movements, the parent ed program will help you have enough confidence by the end to speak to what's going on with your sugar, how they can support, how you're supporting, and what to do, practical tips and tools are everything. Not being in the know, that's stressful. And so the more that you know and understand about your sugar, the more you can advocate and explain what's going on. Also, be confident to ask. It's okay to not know everything. I don't know everything. I tell you in a heartbeat, I don't know. I don't know, but I'll find out. And if I can't find out, I'm going to ask somebody else who knows, because we're not designed to know everything. We're designed to be good at the stuff that we're good at, and then to be smart enough to go to the people around us, our community, for support. That might be another SLP. I get families all the time who call me. I haven't seen their kids in I don't know how long, but they will be like, hey, I want to run this by you. And I'll say, hey, this is what I think. Early interventionists are beautiful people to go because they have general knowledge of just about everything, right? And so they're very helpful to go to and ask questions. Your pediatrician, they are like resourced up, like it's their job to be resourced up and to understand the body. So they are powerful tools. Parent groups. If you're not a part of a parent group, not just a Facebook parent group, I understand like we were social distancing and so now we like to internet everything, but there is power in going and sitting down with people face to face, and there's nonverbal things that you can pick up when you're sitting with someone versus when you're on the screen with someone. I hope I'm good with on the screen. Am I capturing you? Look, that's my acting skills. Am I drawing you in? Right? But I'm just kidding. No, seriously, parent groups face to face if you can. But if you can't get to a parenting group face to face, please, online is fine. It'll do, right? It's better than doing nothing. And then your church group. So many more churches are coming with and incorporating being inclusive. That's the word I'm looking for. So many more churches are being a lot more inclusive, whether they have a special education program or a children's church that has special education or something along those lines. Like they want to serve, they want to know, they want to help as well. And chances are the person that's running that department has some kind of background in special education, and you could tap them on the shoulder and ask them some questions as well. So be confident to ask. Don't think that you need to be an island. That's no, please don't do that, please. And then finally, spend time with your sugar. That is the best teacher to learn. Like if you really want to learn your sugar, take the time to sit down a few minutes a day and just observe. No demands on them, but just watching them and how they do and how they react and what makes them tick and what makes them smile and what makes them not smile and what helps them engage and what helps them, become a bigger part of this world. Fight through your feelings of uncertainty. Fight through those feelings of feeling rejected. Just remember, you are their best chance because you're their world changer. Like, you create safety, you create security, you love them unconditionally, and that in and of itself will make them want to try a little bit harder to meet you where you are and undo some of those gaps together. If you want more tools, visit my website at I'veGotThisKid.com. Read a blog or two. There's some information there. There's definitely a blog about this episode. There's also other podcast episodes that tackle other parenting topics that'll help you on your parenting journey, because you need to tool up and then you need to practice. And then you need to figure out what you don't know. And then you need to practice some more. So that way you're kind of melting that ice of what it feels like as far as that stress. And you're undoing some of that stress and some of those feelings of uncertainty and whatever comes along with it that's making you feel like you don't have the tools you need as a world changer to succeed. I really believe in you, and I believe that you can do this. And also, if you are a professional and you need some support and some help for your families, home goals, parent stress tools are available. Now, parents, I can't make this available to you. I'm sorry. But if you are working with an SLP and you're like, hey, I want to know how I'm doing and if I'm feeling okay, like, am I doing good with stuff? I would encourage you to check it out and encourage them, like, hey, I want to know how I'm doing in this thing and if there's some areas that I need to improve. And again, that's just bringing stuff to light. So you're not kind of sitting there like, putting on the acting. Like, you don't have to do that. Please don't do that. This is really important stuff. So we want to really know, like, from my perspective, I want to know how you feel. I want to know how you're doing. And I want you to know how you're doing and how you're feeling. And then I can help along the way. And so I think other professionals also feel that same way, because we really do want to work and serve to make things a lot better. World changers, I can't emphasize this enough. Parenting is no joke. Like, it's filled with ups and downs. It's got some turns, it's got some twists, but we can tool ourselves up with knowledge. We can tool ourselves up with understanding, and we can apply tools that'll help us be better on this journey. Join me next time where I will be interviewing the amazing Julie Kogura. She found out that she had autism as an adult, and I absolutely love her. Let me tell you, she's got an interesting story. So join me for that episode 2 weeks from now. I cannot wait. Also, show notes and transcripts will be available for you. Join me and find me on social media. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, my YouTube page. Ask me questions at questions@I'veGotThisKid.com. Leave your questions below. There, you can comment on the show, post questions, join the community. The fun stuff, right? Until the next time, world changers, take care.